will be held in camera. At this point in time, I would like to begin officially the meeting with reading the land acknowledgement. The RCDSO is on the traditional lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the Huron-Wendat peoples. These traditional lands are known to some as Toronto. Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit and is home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people from across Turtle Island. This land is also part of the Dish with One Spoon territory, a treaty between allied nations to peaceably share and care for this land. We accept our responsibility to each other and this land we live and work on in a spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. We are committed to actively supporting the necessary work towards truth, reconciliation, and equity. We embrace the role we play in regulating dentists, in protecting the public interest, and in strengthening our partnerships with Indigenous communities to advance access to safe and equitable oral health care. Thank you. At this point in time, I'm going to turn it over to Dan to do the council roll call. Dan?
Thank you, Hanno. Good evening, council. I'll start with Patrick Ballantyne. Patrick?
Sorry, I couldn't unmute. Yeah, present.
Okay, great. Thank you. Nalan Bhargava.
Present.
Stephen Bird.
Present.
Ram Chopra.
Present.
James Colliver.
Present.
Peter Delane. Peter may join us while he's driving. Daniel Fortino.
Present.
Neil Gajar.
Present.
Noha Goma has sent regrets. Daniel Haas.
Present.
Iliad Horner-Parver has sent regrets. Vivian Hu.
Present.
Nizar Ladak.
Present.
Anthony Licio.
Present.
Anthony Mayer.
Present.
Harinder Sandhu.
Present.
Adele Simeone.
Present.
Brian Smith.
Present.
Usama Solomon.
Present.
Robin Somerville.
Present.
Rod Stapleforth. We weren't sure if Rod would be able to join us. Mark Trudell.
Present.
Aaron Walker.
Present.
Judy Welakovich.
Present.
And Deborah Wilson.
Present.
Thank you. Back to you, Hanno.
Thank you. Council, as we usually do at this juncture, we will proceed with the declaration of conflicts of interest. It is particularly important today, considering the commercial sensitivity of the matters before us. Declaration of conflicts are a standard that is captured in the Ministry of Health College Performance Measurement Framework. So I will ask if any members of council feel they have a conflict of interest, real or perceived, to declare for the agenda item to be discussed today. I'm seeing none, so I will note that now. However, if during the meeting you feel that there is a possibility of a conflict, please raise it at that point. As you know, Council, this meeting is focused on a single issue, college workplace planning. I'm going to hand it over to Dan now to provide some introductory remarks. So over to you, Dan, please.
Thank you, Hanno. And we do have a slide deck coming up. I want to start by talking a little bit about the college and setting the stage for a number of presenters that you will hear tonight. First, I want to start by just acknowledging that the RCDSO is in the business of service. We serve many partners. We serve the public through the regulation of dentistry. We serve dentists in the provision of resources that helps them achieve excellence in care. We serve council in your decision-making. And if I could have the next slide, please. Really, this all comes about as the result of an engaged, high-performing team. And that's really essential to deliver on our mandate. And Council, you've expressed your appreciation to staff on numerous occasions. And to do the work that we do, we need to support our most valuable asset, the providers of this service, our staff. And what you'll hear today is the result of several years of work, analysis, current research, and the exploration of a number of options. And it's the product of consultation and lots of discussion at the committee level and at the council level. Collectively, we've concluded that we need to modernize our workspace, and to do so in a reasonable time frame within a fiscally responsible budget. Through this process, we have been and will continue to be accountable and effective. We have to have good space to do our work in the public interest, and should you agree to proceed, we must leave the college in a financially healthy position for many years to come. I'm now going to turn it over to Mark Trudell, who all of you know is the chair of our Finance, Audit, and Risk Committee, and he's going to walk you through the work that has been done to date. Mark.
Thanks, Dan. Good evening, Council. Thanks in advance for your attention tonight. I'll try to stay on point and work through this as efficiently as possible. So over the past 4 years, FAR, your Finance, Audit, and Risk Committee, has undertaken a very comprehensive review of the college's real estate and workplace needs. There were at least 10 FAR meetings and 4 council meetings where this topic of real estate and workspace was on the agenda and was discussed and explored. The journey was fairly long, but we are where we are today. We started with an assessment of the current needs of the workplace and the capacity of the current building to deliver on those needs. We then explored whether selling was an option, and if doing so, selling it together with the abutting property owner, what that might look like, whether there was any interest in that respect. With regards to our property, we did a number of studies, including a geotechnical assessment study, a soil study to determine the subsurface soil conditions and the suitability to develop the property to accommodate a heavier, taller structure. We commissioned environmental site assessment reviews of the property to assess for any evidence of contamination that might impact on the market value. We commissioned a property building condition assessment and correspondingly an independent property financial valuation. We sought tax advice, we sought legal advice, and all of this information, technical, legal, accounting, financial, all that information and advice has allowed us to focus on realistic and some practical options and to develop a series of next steps. Could I have the next slide, please? So as you'll recall, we looked at 4 options. They were presented to council in April of this year. We looked at how the college workplace needs might be best supported either within the current building at 6 Crescent or through alternative premises. The do-nothing option was not considered to be a viable option for a modern and effective organization. And from all the discussions that I've had with either individually or collectively with each one of you, I haven't heard of anybody suggesting that that the status quo is acceptable. So rezoning, then selling was outside of our mandate and our abilities. We would be exposing the college to financial risk, potentially some legal risk, and political risk as a not-for-profit, really entertaining the idea of looking at capital gains through land development through rezoning. The option to stay and renovate the current offices presents significant challenges. Again, that wasn't the do-nothing option, that was the stay-put option, but to renovate, to continue to own, but to renovate the premises that we own presently. A little bit of detail on that subject. This building that the college owns was constructed in the 1970s, and it was really designed in a different way of working that no longer aligns with the college's current operational needs. Our building contains many enclosed office spaces divided by structurally load-bearing walls, internal walls. There are some open areas, but often those areas are divided making use of cubicles and high walls cubicles. It's a 5-story building, but it really has a 3-floor layout with staircase to transition from between those floors. But but really that really negatively impacts on the usable space because that staircase is situated smack dab in the middle of that floor template. So that dated layout limits access also to daylight. You know, there was a new building constructed on the north side of our property, completed in 2018, and it fully obstructed natural light on the entire north face, therefore resulting in a number of dark workplace offices on that side of the building. So the front entrance, well, it really doesn't present a real welcoming experience for visitors or system partners. It's really a small reception area with two access points, one to the elevator and another one to the parking garage, which is ground level. So addressing all those issues to make it genuinely a functional workplace for our staff in the current, work era of 2026, it's substantial renovations and substantial capital costs. We've sought, third-party information, reputable contractors, and engineering support. And where that has landed is a minimum of $15 million to potentially over $17 million to achieve those renovations. And you'll witness more information we'll be providing you with this evening when you hear from our advisors on this subject. But beyond that cost, those major renovations would create a significant operational disruption. This is not just a paint and wallpaper exercise. You would be dealing with removing load-bearing structural walls, demolishing, essentially gutting the majority of the interior area of each of those floors. And therefore, that disruption necessitates an exit. You considering those factors, you'd pretty much have to relocate temporarily all the staff and all the operations to a remote location for a significant period of time until those renovations are completed in the order of a couple of years. So when you consider all those factors together, FAR concluded that the option of renovating the existing building really wasn't practical and arguably really not a cost-effective solution. So FAR, we also carefully examined the option the option of purchasing another property, distinct from staying put. Our advisors, Colliers, conducted extensive research of that market. They assessed a range of opportunities. And at the end of that exercise, there was no property on the market that offered a clear advantage to us, and particularly a clear advantage over leasing. Each would require significant renovations and investment to meet the college's requirements and adding considerable cost and complexity. None of those properties that were potential candidates to be purchased had sufficient floor space or a unified single floor space. You'll hear more about that from, again, our advisors, Colliers, about the option of purchasing a new building. The next option was leasing as a third option. Leasing, in contrast, provides the college an opportunity to move directly into modern, adaptable workspace, and it aligns really with the workplace objectives that you'll hear Michelle speak about shortly. It also offers greater flexibility as the organization's needs evolve. Our needs today, post-COVID, are substantially different than the operational needs of the college pre-COVID, let alone arguably in the 1970s when the current workspace was designed. So from a financial perspective, transitioning from ownership to leasing really strengthens the college's long-term position. Importantly, owning and maintaining an aging piece of real estate adds to the cost of the operations of the college. And those additional costs financially take away from our core mandate and our core functions. Our focus, in the opinion of FAR and staff, should remain on our regulatory mandate and the services that we provide to the public and to the profession. The planning work that was carried out identified a need that that our current building is ballpark around 30,000 square feet of usable floor space. Our needs currently are approximately 19,000 square feet. Efficiently designed and usable space. So the current existing property, the building, offers more space than what is required, substantially more space. And again, the consideration of renovation, let alone do we want to become a landlord in regards to the management of that excess space. In addition, staying put at 6 Crescent, that location is really in a residential area, and it has fewer workplace amenities than typically are available in a commercial office environment in terms of responding to the needs of the college's staff. So taken together, these considerations led far to the recommendations that will be discussed following this session in an in-camera session, a confidential in-camera session. So at this point, thank you again for your attentive listening. I'd like to pass it over now to Michelle Tremblay, the college's organizational transformation and equity officer. Michelle will walk you through the criteria and provide some context. Michelle, please.
Thank you, Mark, and good evening, Council. It's good to see you all. In order to support informed decision-making on the future of our workspace, senior staff developed these 9 criteria that you see on screen to focus our effort on what matters most to achieve our strategic vision in the public interest. To start, we know that it's critical to have a workspace that helps us enhance collaboration and engagement while supporting our flexible work environment. We also know that any option we choose needs to support Vision 2035 and ensure that the college remains financially responsible, sustainable, and resilient. Our efforts should also have an outcome that has a long-term and stable workspace for our staff, where we can take occupancy within a reasonable timeline, limiting the period of displacement and distraction that Mark just described. Another objective relates to improving our in-house technology, and this is another factor that will help us improve our collaboration and our connection as a team. And you all, as council members, are familiar with our IT team and services, and you know how hard they work to keep us connected. Additionally, an efficient and simple design will strengthen usability, and we see a future where we could hold council meetings in-house. And we could have an inviting and accessible space for system partners and the public to participate in important discussions. You've heard from Dan about our amazing staff team of 125 people and their pictures on screen today. And they continuously improve to meet the needs of the public interest. And we're ready for a space that reflects the regulatory professionalism that we demonstrate in our daily work. A space that's a magnet will help our efforts in retaining and attracting a diverse group of top talent to meet the big goals of the strategic vision that Council's approved. And finally, we need a design that's creative, adaptable, and multi-purpose. We know that a more efficient design means a significant reduction in the college's footprint overall. And while keeping strong access to transit and improving efficiency of our building systems, we hope to contribute positively to environmental sustainability as an organization. So those are the 9 criteria that our senior staff put together. On the next slide, I know you've seen this slide before. It shows where our team of 125 reside. And the RCDSO's workplace should continue to be strategically located, both to support where people live and where our system partners connect. As a reminder, over 50% of our staff live within 15 kilometers of 6 Crescent Road in Toronto. And on the next slide, you'll see that our network of system partners, including the majority of Ontario's health regulators, the Ministry of Health, University of Toronto Faculty of Dentistry, the ODA, are all clustered in Toronto. And Pillar 1 of our RCDSO's Vision 2035 talks about the work that we want to do in supporting the healthy system. And it says that we will lead and inspire forward-looking conversations about the future of oral health and the broader health system. So, as the college considers its future space needs, being in close proximity to partners and potentially having a space to support these conversations is part of that story. There's lots of potential for us to continue to be recognized as a trusted leader and an influential partner in the system. So you'll see the 9 criteria about planning for the future and ensuring the college is well positioned for the years ahead. It's also about being a responsible steward with the resources that we have, and any decision should support long-term sustainability and our flexible model. So I'm just going to turn to the next slide with the motions from April, and I'm going to address the first motion from our April meeting, and then I'll turn it to Jeff Goldberg, our CFO, for the last 2. In April, Council, you will recall that you approved 3 motions. Motion 1 was to appoint Colliers as the college's real estate broker of record to conduct a leasing inquiry process. And this engagement didn't oblige us to enter any lease or incur any fees or commitments, but since April, staff have been able to work with Colliers to assess lease options. And so Colliers came up with a list of 43 properties that we could consider to lease. And a small group of us reviewed the initial list of 43. And then we visited 11 properties and conducted very thorough tours. And during our tours, we held the properties against the 9 criteria that I just described. And out of those 11 properties, this small group shortlisted 3 potential spaces for lease that met all of our 9 objectives. And those shortlisted properties have a number of key characteristics that I'll share with you that are in common. They were all optimally located by GO Transit, highway, TTC, rail, and access to the path. The properties met our target square footage needs. They all had great access to natural light. The lease options had strong IT infrastructure for our tech needs and our future. And the shortlisted properties were all managed by highly rated landlords. And so we expanded our team after we got to the shortlist and invited 10 more staff from communications, finance, HR, IT, and transformation, and they toured those 3 properties. Additionally, we had an interior designer and general contractors help us prepare costing for lease. And on a parallel track, those same designers and contractors toured 6 Crescent to give us costing on a future renovation. So that's what's happened on that motion since April, and I'll turn it over to Jeff to discuss the progress on the other 2 motions. Jeff?
Thank you, Michelle. So that was the motion related to leasing. We had 2 also related to sale. So Council directed us to proceed with the formal exploration of the potential sale of 6 Crescent and to appoint Colliers as the broker of record for that potential sale. So working in reverse order, after our council and legal team reviewed an agreement, the agreement was signed with Colliers on April 24th of this year, appointing them as our broker of record. Since then, FAR has formed a subgroup, the Real Estate Advisory Group, or REAG, as we sometimes refer to it, and they will oversee the sale process and review the bids and all that activity. So REAG did hold an initial meeting in April to discuss some due diligence issues and receive a market update from Colliers. And, for the sale, we recognize that the market value of the property based on competitive bids can really only be generated when a listing agreement is signed and put into place. So I'm going to now hand it over to Dan to conclude this part of the briefing. Dan?
Thanks, Jeff. Thank you, Jeff. So Council, this session has been designed, as you can see, to provide you with background material and a lot of reminders about work that's been done to study the current property and the asset at 6 Crescent Road. And we've also been able to offer considerations on appropriate modern workspace for staff in the short and long term, with lots of costing. So the workup that you have and that you will see from Colliers has been facilitated with staff and completed around a financial analysis of all the feasible scenarios. This does involve some sensitive information that relates to market conditions and data for a possible sale of Sixth Crescent, as well as costing for potential lease options that have been obtained from several commercial landlord discussions. And what I would like to do is suggest that if you are willing, that we move the next portion of the meeting to an in-camera session where you will be provided with this data and have an opportunity to hear from our real estate and our legal advisors. And then following the in-camera discussion, we'll come back to the public session to entertain your questions and to consider motions that have been forwarded to you from the Finance, Audit, and Risk Committee. So, Hanno, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Dan. And thank you, Jeff, Michelle, Mark, and Dan for leading off this session. Council, the next portion of this discussion requires that we be in camera. We will need to approve a motion in order to move into that in-camera session. And if I could ask to have that motion on the screen, please. And the motion for your consideration is that the public be excluded from the following portion of the meeting under clauses B and E of subsection 7.2 of the Health Professions Procedural Code, being Schedule 2 of the Regulated Health Profession Act, Ontario, in that one, financial or personal or other matters may be disclosed of such a nature that the harm created by the disclosure would outweigh the desirability of adhering to the principle that meetings be open to the public. And two, instructions will be given to or opinions received from the solicitors for the college. And the mover is Jamie, seconded by Anthony Lisho. I would ask that the rest of council in favor raise their virtual hands. And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, council. In a moment, those of us who will be invited to the in-camera session will see a breakout room pop up here on your screen. When that happens, please join the breakout room by clicking on that message. For those following the live stream, our goal is to be back in the public session as close to 8 as we can manage for further discussions and motions. Please join us then, or feel free to watch the college's YouTube channel later. And at this point in time, I am going to ask Angelo to put that pop up for those people who will be joining the in-camera session, if that can appear on our screen, please. So when that does, please click join for those people attending the in-camera session.
Hi, Anna, we're back on the live stream now.
Thank you. Welcome back, everyone, and thank you very much for your patience. I said we would be back as close to 8 as we could. I guess this is as close as we could make it, but thank you again for your patience and for being here. Council, we've taken some time to discuss the recommendations from FAR and the market research that has helped to inform today's decision-making questions. Jeff, if you could please provide comment on the college's intentions regarding the proceeds.
Thank you, Hanno. So let me begin by saying that the sale of the existing building and moving to a smaller lease property will provide us with far greater certainty and flexibility with respect to future space needs. And we'll take advantage of favorable market conditions for residential redevelopment of Sixth Crescent. So this approach of selling and leasing will unlock capital that can be directed towards strategic priorities, regulatory programs, and innovation. And it supports the college, the college's long-term financial health and will help maintain fee stability for dentists. So we can move to the next slide. So we thought we would spend a little bit of time on reserves because this will be an important topic. So FAR originally developed a reserves policy in 2020 to help ensure that the college was prepared for any unexpected contingencies without impacting operations. So we currently have 2 reserves. We have the PLP Program 1 which is being dissolved as part of the divestment process. And we have a reserve for operational contingencies. And that's required by the Ministry of Health's College Performance Measurement Framework. So our intention over the past couple of years has been to meet and exceed those requirements by funding our operating reserve. So the current reserves policy, particularly given the PLP divestment and this sale potential transaction, means the policy needs to be reviewed. So FAR is going to begin this work shortly, and a discussion on reserves will be held at Council. So the policy will strengthen governance and oversight of reserves by Council. We're going to make sure Council has authority to fund, to provide limitations, to move any funds between reserves or out of reserves. So our president and FAR are committed to revising the policy, but for tonight, this is not the discussion. So we will have a discussion at Council in the near future with a strong emphasis on the enhancement of governance of reserves. And that should be, we think by September, we're going to be ready for that discussion. So before I turn it back to Hannah, I would like to summarize the next steps should Council approve the motions recommended by FAR. So we have identified 3 primary next steps. 1, a listing agreement will be executed. So once that's done, Colliers will work very closely with FAR and REAG on a marketing plan and start to plan all activities for the sale of the building with the final objective to bring a recommendation to Council. Second, senior staff will commence formal lease negotiations and work with the executive committee to review and finalize a viable lease arrangement. And third, as I mentioned a moment ago, the financial reserves policy will be amended by FAR, and the plan is to present this to Council in September. So with that, Hannah, I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you very much, Jeff. At this point in time, Council, I will open the floor for questions or comments. I am going to go to the 2 people I had on my speakers list coming out of our in-camera session. So first, I'm going to ask you, Jamie, to speak or to question.
Thank you, Jeff. I have a question for you. And that question is, what actually is the sale process? Can you comment on how it's all going to work? And then also, I think you answered it actually in the previous slide, but when there is a transaction or a potential transaction, will Council be approving that transaction? And also throughout this entire session, the sale process, how's it going to be managed within the RCDSO through committee, I would assume, FAR and REAG? I think that's what you said in your previous slide.
Yeah, thanks.
That's it.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I can give you the generalities of the sale process. Of course, Colliers has much more detail. But so one of the first steps that we're requesting today is the authority to sign a listing agreement. So Colliers has already drafted that listing agreement. We've already run this by our legal counsel to ensure it has the appropriate protections for the college. So once this is signed, Colliers will review the sale timeline with REAG and start to create a marketing plan for review. So REAG is going to be they're going to be involved in this process every step of the way. And REAG reports to FAR. REAG has no decision-making authority, but they can make recommendations to FAR. So after the marketing plan is put together, we expect marketing and tours will follow. and a bid date will be set a few months probably into the process. The next step will be, of course, the evaluation of the bids. We expect it'll take a couple of months to negotiate terms and prepare a sale agreement for the preferred bidder. And again, REAG is going to be on the ground with Colliers, with staff, walking through this process. So once REAG will make a recommendation to FAR, once FAR is comfortable with that recommendation, they will then present to council for approval. So council will approve the final sale. FAR has no decision-making responsibility here. It has to be council that will approve the sale.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. Daniel Fortino.
Thanks, Hanno. Thanks, Jeff. My question is really based around if there's a proposed sort of transition timeline and strategy. Sort of specifically, does the college, are they going to lease new space before selling the current building or vice versa? If there's an overlap, what are we going to do with the existing building? And how is the transition going to be managed to sort of minimize disruption to operations and the current services that the college provides?
Yeah, thanks for that. So, I don't want to say it depends, but it sort of does. So we haven't conducted this sort of conversations with Colliers yet. We understand that the market is getting better. There's getting more confidence in the market. So they may determine, or they'll recommend for us when they think the best time is to enter into a sale process. So indications are that things may happen at the same time. So if we had a property and we were doing tenant improvements, that could very well happen at the same time as a sale process. But we will make sure that there is no disruption where we don't have a place to live. So, we can put different conditions into any sale agreement that we can stay on for 6 months or 12 months while a new space is being fit up. So there are different terms, and FAR has talked about some of those terms to make sure that we would be protected from any sort of disruption like that.
Thank you.
Dan Faulkner.
Thanks, Hanno, and thanks, Daniel, for that question, because I think a lot of experience from the PLP divestment can be applied here, and I would just echo everything that Jeff has said and sort of allow council to see this as how we are going to identify risks and mitigate them in a context that we don't quite know exactly what it will look like, and it might change along the way. And a big part of that will be the various guardrails that we have, including the real estate advisory group, the finance audit and risk committee, and council itself, and the work that we're doing if council decides to proceed with Colliers. So it really becomes a risk management enterprise in terms of how we move forward, and always ensuring that the college is going to be able to operate at full capacity, at full service, while we're dealing with some of the changing environment around us as we get more information moving forward, if that's what we are going to do.
Thanks. Jeff, did you want to be on the speakers list, or did you want to add to this?
I can be on the speakers list.
Okay. Next on my speakers list is Anthony Lisho.
I think Dan pretty well covered what I wanted to cover. I think keep in mind that we as sellers have a pretty good handle on the process and how long it takes. In other words, once the agreement of sale is signed, the closing date, we have a lot of control over that. We're not going to be in a position of having a gun to our head, and that also goes on the other side of side equation where we're looking for space. Again, we'll have a lot of flexibility. Landlords will be very anxious to give us as much latitude as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff?
Yeah, thanks, Anno. Yeah, I just want to give council some comfort that we have people calling us all the time for our building to either lease or purchase. I think we have someone coming through in a couple of weeks. So it is not unusual for us to get unsolicited bids for purchase or lease. So it is a desirable property.
Thanks, Jeff. Brian Smith?
Thank you, Hannah. I just want to say, as a public member, how impressed I have been and appreciate the work that FAR staff and council members that are directly involved in it have taken to bring this matter to fruition, hopefully very soon. And it'll allow us to reflect and really represent the public interest and meet our regulatory requirements going forward. So kudos to everybody involved. I think it's an excellent route that we're taking, and look forward to this happening. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. I have no further speakers on my list, so at this point in time, I am going to ask if Harinder would like to make any further comments before we call the motions. Harinder?
Hanno, thank you very much. Council having involved with this topic for over the last 4 years, and very intense discussion over last few weeks. I can assure you that FAR has taken a deep dive into the particulars of the options under consideration. As always, we have focused on what solution was going to best position the college to serve the public and the profession in the years to come. And I am confident, and I want to assure you that recommendation before you today are the best work the college staff and with our partners have done. So I look forward to your approval today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Harinder. And Mark, may I just ask you if you have a final comment to make before we consider the motions?
Thanks, Hanno. And so, fellow council members, folks, this evening, you're being asked to make an informed, evidence-based decision. And you've been provided with lots of additional information this evening to empower you in making that decision, and also, quite frankly, to deepen your understanding of the implications coming from that decision. You know, back in April at our council meeting, you asked staff to conduct further analysis. You were very prudent. And they've done that. And they've done it in as much as they could without committing to a lease or committing to the sale of the building. Under the guidance of the Real Estate Advisory Group and also the FAR committee, staff have done all of that. The presentation that you've seen this evening, the information that you've been provided with, followed by the Q&A session, is pretty much as far as we can take this discussion, this potential sale and lease analysis under the instructions that you previously provided us with. For my part, I believe that the conclusion is clear. The direction that you set in April to explore diligently and evaluate options has now been completed. And the results, which reflect very contemporary market research, current market research, those results clearly indicate that the sale of the college's outdated building and the leasing of efficient, high-functioning space in the downtown core area of Toronto truly is the most viable option. So for those reasons, for all those reasons, members of the FAR committee are unanimous in recommending the sale of the building, and the lease of the new premises. Finally, thank you so much for your patience this evening. It's been a long haul. You've been very diligent in your evaluation and your questions and answers. Hanno, back to you.
Thank you, Mark. And thank you again to all staff for the incredible amount of work that went into tonight's meeting, as well as the people who did the presenting, which was very informative, and to council for your thoughtful questions and comments. At this point in time, we have two motions, council, that we need to consider before the end of this meeting. If I could have the first motion on the screen, please. And that motion for your consideration is that council approves the execution of a listing agreement for the sale of the property at 6 Crescent Road, Toronto, and delegates the authority to the Finance, Risk and Audit Committee, FAR, to conduct due diligence and negotiations. And that is moved by Ram, seconded by Neil. And at this point in time, I'm going to ask everyone to lower their virtual hand. I'm going to pause again for a moment to see if there are any questions specifically about this motion. Seeing none, I'm going to ask that Dan do the roll call for this vote. And when Dan calls your name, council members, please indicate either in favor, opposed, or abstaining to the motion that we are considering. Dan?
Thanks, Hanno. I just want to inform council that Judy Welikovich had to leave. So I believe we are at 21 at this point.
21. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Patrick Ballantyne.
In favor.
Nalan Bargava.
In favor?
Stephen Bird.
In favor?
Ram Chopra.
In favor?
Jamie Colliver.
In favor?
Peter Delane.
In favor.
Daniel Fortino.
In favor?
Neil Gajar.
In favor.
Daniel Haas.
In favor.
Vivian Hu.
In favor.
Nizar Ladak.
In favor?
Anthony Licio.
In favor?
Anthony Mayer.
In favor.
Harinder
In
Sandhu.
favor.
Adele Simeone.
In favor?
Brian Smith.
In favor.
Osama Solomon.
In favor.
Robin Somerville. You're on mute, Robin.
Sorry, in favor.
Thank you. Mark Trudell.
In favor.
Aaron Walker.
In favor.
And Deborah Wilson.
In favor.
And I just want to make sure I didn't miss anyone.
Thank you. I tallied,
Okay.
and that motion carried unanimously. So all 21 people who could vote voted in favor of that motion. Thank you very much. The next motion for your consideration, council, if I could have that on the screen, please. Is that council delegates authority to the executive committee to review and approve the final offer to lease presented to them by the registrar regarding workspace for RCDSO operations. And if that is moved by Neil and that is seconded by Anthony Licio. And again, I'm going to ask everyone to put down their virtual hands. And I will pause for a moment to see if there are any questions about this specific motion. Anthony Mayer?
So thank you, Hanno. If I'm reading that correctly, it means that the executive would be able to actually sign a lease and not come back to council for approval. Is that correct?
I'm throwing it over to you, Dan Faulkner.
Yeah, and I can comment, and Alan Bromstein is here as well, but that's essentially what it is saying, Anthony, so that the executive committee, like they did with various parts of PLP, are able to dive into the lease and the details and hear from legal counsel and treat it as an operational decision rather than have 25 individuals on council review the lease arrangements. So that's the intent of it, which was a big part of the process in the PLP divestment as well. And I don't know if Alan wants to comment on that at all.
That is correct. Ultimately, the lease wouldn't be signed by the executive committee, it'd be signed by the signing officer of the college, but the approval process would be delegated to the executive committee to make that decision.
Can I do a short follow-up, Hannah?
Yes.
So I think in principle I agree with this, but I feel like maybe there should be one more meeting before that when we get closer to those kind of nitty-gritty issues.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so Harinder.
Can I make a comment in response to
Yes.
Anthony's? I think the college has worked, the staff has worked very hard on, I mean, shortlisting the properties, and we as executive, as representing the council when council is not in session or is not meeting, I can assure you that all of the best outcome will be our motive. And we have the legal counsel to advise us. So Anthony, rest assured that whatever the council approves will be, I can predict that it will be welcomed by council. Thank you.
Thanks, Surinder. And council, we're going to follow the same process as before. Dan, I'm going to turn it over to you. And when Dan calls your name, you're either in favor, opposed, or abstaining. Dan.
Thank you. I'll start from the top again. Patrick Ballantyne.
In favor.
Nalam Bhargava.
In favor?
Stephen Bird.
In favor.
Ram Chopra.
In favor?
Jamie Colliver.
In favor.
Peter Delane.
In favor.
Daniel Fortino.
In favor?
Neil Gajar.
In favor.
Daniel Haas.
In favor.
Vivian Hu.
In favor.
Nizar Ladak.
In favor?
Anthony Licio.
In favor.
Anthony Mayer.
In favor.
Harinder Sandhu.
In favor.
Adele Simeone.
In favor.
Brian Smith.
In favor.
Osama Solomon.
In favor.
Robin Somerville. Did we lose Robin? I don't see her. Does anybody see Robin? I don't see her. Okay.
No, I don't
Robin
see it.
appears to be absent. Mark Trudell.
In favor.
Aaron Walker.
In favor.
And Deborah Wilson.
In favor.
Back to you, Hannah.
Thank you. So there were only 20 people who could vote for this one, and this one also passed unanimously. All 20 of those people who voted in favor of that motion. So thank you again. Matt and John, thank you as well to all staff and for your presentations today, and thank you, Council, for your questions. We've come to the end of our agenda today. If you do receive any questions about the college's real estate plans, we ask that you forward them to Leslie Byrne, Director Communications, or to practiceadvisory@rcdso.org. I would also like to take an opportunity before the meeting officially ends to thank all those involved in the incredible work that has been done. This has been a shorter meeting than usual, but it has been jammed full with tons of information. So lots of people, I'm sure, have been tap dancing as fast as they could to get all this out to council in a timely manner and to prepare for this session today. So on behalf of all council, our sincere gratitude and appreciation for all that effort. A brief reminder to council that our next meeting will be a hybrid meeting and it will be held on Thursday, September 24th. And we have one last motion before we can adjourn, and that is simply to adjourn this meeting. So if I could have a mover to adjourn the meeting, that's moved by Jamie, seconded by Deborah. All those in favor, you just have to raise your virtual hand. We won't do a roll call. And that motion is carried. So again, thank you all for your attendance today. Have a wonderful evening and have a great summer, and we'll see you all in September.